All right, you guys should have gotten a notification. It may ask for your permission to record. We are super excited to have you guys on and chatting with Military Spouse Magazine. I think that over the last 5 years, spouses have gotten a lot of coverage in terms of pain points, issues, but a lot of times our military kids are kind of on the back burner in terms of what they go through and the struggles that come along with this life and the good, of course, as well. So you guys are like the experts that we get to chat with, and we're super pumped for it. Matthew, maybe you want to start us off and kind of give an introduction to who you are and what your journey has been as a military kid, and then we'll move on to Elena. Is it Elena? I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Okay, perfect.
Well, like I said, I'm Matthew O. I currently live in South Korea at Camp Humphreys. My dad is in the Army. I've been an Army brat my whole life. I'm currently 18. Elena and I are both 18 now, so we are recently have stepped out of the kid category, I think, but we still consider ourselves proud military teens, as our website, Bloom, is a platform for military teens. Um, I guess in terms of my own personal military journey, I've moved 8 times, um, experienced some deployment early in my life, and also, during the elementary school time. Um, and yeah, I've been in Korea for, this is my third year. And military life has opened so many doors for me in terms of leadership opportunities. I'm the student body president at my school. Um, and I've just had so many tremendous opportunities thanks to moving, that, you know, a normal kid wouldn't get to experience, including exploring the world. Um, that said, oh no, we lost Selena. Um,
Yeah.
that said, it of course there are so many challenges that come with being a military dependent, a spouse, a child. It all comes with its ups and downs, and that's why Elena and I started Bloom. But I think we'll get into that later. So I'll let Elena introduce herself.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Elena Ashburn. As Matthew sort of mentioned, I'm also 18. I'm an Army brat as well. My dad has served for uh, a little over 25 years, it'll be, but he is retiring very soon. So I'm also on the cusp of becoming a retired brat. Um, so I'm not sure what we all covered when my Wi-Fi hopped out briefly, but Matthew, did you tell Jessica how we met?
I did
Not
not.
yet. Not
That's
yet.
the story I was
Jessica's,
gonna go with.
yeah,
All
do
right,
it, please. I
I
can't wait
got
to hear
that.
this.
um, Matthew and I met in ninth grade. We were both stationed in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, at the U.S. Army War College. Uh, the first time I remember meeting Matthew was in English class, and I thought he hated me because he's just a very like serious, studious person. At least that's how he comes off a lot of times. Um, but we ended up really jiving and like enjoying each other's company and enjoying each other's work ethic and styles. We did a lot of projects together in that English class and in many other classes. Um, and we really enjoyed our year there that we spent. The U.S. Army War College is only a year assignment because it is a war college. So we were only there for the school year. We got there in July, August, and we were both gone by June, um, which was hard for both of us. He moved to South Korea, and I moved to Florida. And moving away from a place that we had both really enjoyed, we had great extracurriculars, we had a great friend group, we had a really great time. Was really difficult, and that sort of sparked the idea for Bloom. And I'll let Matthew take it from there.
Yeah, so I remember meeting Elena in history class, not English. Um, we were doing like a project. Well, can I tell this story? Are you okay with that?
I guess.
Um, I have to I just remember, Elena, we had like a bingo sheet where you had to go around the class and find someone who fit each category as sort of like a getting to know you activity. And Elena comes up and she's like Elena mentioned, I'm kind of like b- before I opened up to you, I'm very like serious, um, kind of
You're an
quiet.
observer. You're an
Yeah,
observer. You have to like
at
see
least
how things are going to shake
initially.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's so joyful and happy. Well, at least she I haven't seen her in 3 years, so I don't know if that she's still like this. But at least back then,
Hey,
she
you
was
talk
so
to me all the time. Don't act like you don't know me.
joyful, and she comes up and she's like, "Hi, I'm Elena Ashburn. Well, like ashes burn." And then that was my first impression of Elena. But yeah, after the move, we kind of just wait, did you want to ask about Bloom later, or do you want us to talk like more
No, go
first?
ahead. I love
Okay.
this organic, style you guys met. I mean, and 1 year is really hard. Like speaking as a military spouse, I know I get itchy feet after about 2 years. I start thinking about where are we moving. I get excited because I know at that 3 year mark it's time. But I've done a really short tour before and it is brutal. You've just built those friendships, those relationships, established yourself, and then it's all kind of ripped from you. So like that's essentially what you guys went through. And then how did Bloom come about?
Um, So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think with a really short tour, it's especially this was our freshman year of high school. This was our first year kind of like experiencing some freedom, getting to choose and connect deeply with a lot of great friends and teachers, doing a lot of extracurriculars, spending a lot of time with people, and so that was really hard. For us and all of our friends that we made there who were also military kids that had to move away. Um, and so that kind of led to us, I personally had a pretty rough transition to Korea. It was probably the hardest I've ever done. People say moving gets easier, but it really doesn't in my experience. And um, if anything, it's gotten harder just because of those deeper relationships. And, you're more emotionally aware as you do it more. Um, but I had a rough transition. I was taken away from a lot of programs I liked. I was a big marching band kid. Didn't have one here. Um, had a lot of what am I supposed to do with my time? Well, I am stuck here till I graduate. How am I supposed to, um, you know, how am I supposed to thrive here? Um, and I think a lot of our friends kind of went through similar, if not as extreme situations, with just, man, I really miss everyone. I miss where we were. I'm not happy where I am currently. Um, and that led to Bloom, which is Elena and I, of course, kept in touch. Tried to do some. We're both very creative people, so we like to channel our emotions through creativity. Um, and we tried a bunch of different projects to kind of just cope. Um, I really wanted to write a musical, but then that didn't take off as we
You should
expected.
though.
I know. I still want to. Elena's.
He's got the
I don't.
chops. He can
Yeah.
do it. I believe in him. I'm not as talented as him when it comes to musical stuff for sure.
Well, I
Um,
can't like. She's the vocalist, so she sings. I'm the person behind the music, I guess. Um, but
I do theater. That's kind of not exactly equating to singing, but okay.
well, you can sing
um,
too.
I feel like when Matthew, his transition was very different from mine, but I feel like we both had like really tough times. Went through a pretty bad patch in my mental health, which is something I've talked about a lot on Bloom and through all of the different outlets that I've gotten to talk about Bloom to. I've talked pretty openly about what it's like to go through mental health struggles as a military teen, especially because we come from an environment that as very much so you are strong and resilient, and you're surrounded by all of these, strong and resilient people, and you sort of feel a lot of pressure to be strong and resilient. And I was really struggling, because I felt like everyone needed me to be strong and resilient, but that's not how I was feeling. Um, and that for me was a really important tipping point in like the creation of Bloom, because I remember just thinking like, what is all of my suffering for? What is all of me feeling like this for if I can't help other people with it somehow? And I think that for me was like the start of like, hey, Matthew, we should like do something for other military kids like us, because we're both not having a great time right now. How can we use our not great time to make other times, like other people's times, like less bad? Um, so like Matthew said, we tried a bunch of different things. And I think we finally ended up on the website. Um, we originally intended it to be sort of like a blog where we could have a lot of military teen friends write, as well as ourselves write, um, all about military life and everything that they wanted to share to other people in the community. And we started out with a pretty comparatively small group, I want to say. Um, there were probably around 15 of us in total, just writing. Matthew and I built this site from scratch ourselves, and we made a big social media push and launched it on April 10th of 2020. So we're coming up on almost 2 years. And it has grown so far beyond the like blog we intended it to be at the beginning. That's such a wonderful thing. Um, Not only do we do articles now written by our staff of what is now over 30 military teams, we accept writing from kids in the community as well as artwork and poetry. We've also had some past military kids, or we consider there's no such thing as a past military kid, once a military kid, always a military kid, but who are now adults with their own children, reflecting on their experiences and talking about that. We ventured into research and advocacy through some collaborations with the National Military Family Association. Um, we've gotten to expand through so much. From we started as just a blog, but it's so much more now, and we're reaching a lot more people in our community, not just the teens who are our original audience, but everyone, to show like military teens are sort of this overlooked sector of the military community. Um, Matthew likes to say we're not the cute little kids like waving the flags when our parents come home from deployment. Like we're not like that beautiful picturesque scene in every deployment homecoming video. We're teenagers, but that doesn't make us any less worthy of having our voices heard, and it doesn't make our experiences any less valid. So that's really what we intend to do with Bloom, is to support and uplift the teens in our community.
Yeah, and let them know that they're not alone. It's research. If you look at what the research says in terms of military children and teens compared to their peers, like there's higher rates of anxiety, depression, like it's all there. Everything that we see that spouses go through, our children are also, going through. And on top of that, teenage years, that comes with its own set of, fun, unique, struggles and developmental milestones. And so to have a space that's just, for you guys. And I love that you said once a military kid, always a military kid, because I've interviewed adults that are well into their 50s who still call themselves military brats. Like those formative years just, shaped who they were. And it's such a part of their identity. It's hard. And so like thinking about retirement now, for your father, Elena, like that's rough. Like I think you're still gonna be a military kid. Like how do you let go of that? Like there's
I've been thinking about it a lot lately, just because he is supposed to retire in the summer, so it's pretty imminent. And my entire life we've been active duty, and that's just all I've ever known. Um, but at Bloom, we do our best to include military kids from all branches, all walks of life, um, all times in their service. We have so many kids who have been retired since they were little and don't really remember much about that life, but maybe have other unique viewpoints to bring to the table. For instance, we had someone write about their family's journey with coping with their serving parents' deployments and the mental health after effects of those. Even though her family was retired, that doesn't mean that she didn't have her own set of struggles, and their family didn't have their own set of struggles that they needed to overcome. Um, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to in terms of gaining a new perspective on military life, being able to step away from it. But I will I will sort of miss the nomadic lifestyle a little bit of moving around all the time and getting to experience so many different places in the world. Um, One thing that Matthew and I like to say all the time is like, although we often criticize and speak pretty loudly about issues within our community, um, we love being military kids. Like, we wouldn't trade the last 18 years of our lives for anything else. And that's how I'm viewing this as I'm going into the stage of being a retirement brat, is like, I would never change the past 18 years of my life to be a civilian kid instead. And I can't wait to experience this new side of military life as a retired brat, and also going off and doing my own thing as an adult in college and, etc. So, yeah.
You know, you both touched on like resiliency and strength, right? And the expectations. And sometimes those expectations are a weight in itself, right? But how would you both describe going through these hardships and what it's done for you personally? Like, you both are 18, you're going to be going off and building your own lives. When we think of teenagers who maybe have never had to deal with, moving suddenly, which is a trauma, leaving friends, all of that, and, dealing with deployments, how do you think all of this has developed you to where when you do go off and you're dealing with the new struggles you may encounter in college life or whatever life you build, do you think that it has made you more resilient than maybe the average kid because you've gone through it?
I definitely would say yes, asterisk. So I definitely think yes, it's grown me so much as a person in terms of, I would say the biggest skill I've learned throughout military life is just empathy and how to you go through these hardships and then you're able to see other people who are going through these hardships as well. Especially with our Bloom journey, we talk very openly. We encourage our writers to talk openly. So just seeing the things they're going through and recognizing that and supporting them through that is such an important life skill, I think. And I know there are plenty of military brats who are like legitimately like brats, but there are also so many that are supportive and that can that know how to help each other and know how to care for each other in so many ways. I've seen so many military teens supporting their peers through this process. And I really do think, having this community and being a part of a community and being part of military communities, school communities, a lot of different communities that you cycle through as a military connected person, it just really helps you become a better person and well-rounded, and you know how to deal with people, you know how to again empathize and just see everyone in a different perspective. So I really think it's all about perspective. I do say the asterisk because, like we touched on earlier, I feel like the resilience trope is um, I feel like it's overused and that it again creates those unrealistic expectations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, military life is so impactful on who you are as a person that it does make you stronger. But also, that's not an excuse to shove issues under the rug. Is what I like to say.
So true. I think that one of the things I feel like the military life has taught me as I enter into adulthood and, doing my own thing is like, um, for an anecdote, at the beginning of the pandemic, my mom sat our family down and said, this is a scary time. There's a lot going on, but I feel like our entire lives has been like, it's all been leading up to this moment because military families know how to handle anything crazy thrown their way. so many times has the army been like, "Oh, JK, you're moving here," instead of, over here. JK, change all your plans. All right, bye. And so I feel like the military life has taught me not to take anything I have currently for granted, because I don't know how quickly that might go away. And also just to be flexible and be prepared to change plans, because life is so unexpected. Crazy things happen all the time. Um, and it's all about adapting to those new things and those new experiences and embracing them, instead of, you know, not being willing to embrace change. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is just embracing change and expecting the unexpected, I guess.
I love it. And like, as a spouse, we always refer that to like Murphy's Law. Like when they leave, everything goes wrong. Like it's gonna happen and we're just like prepped out for it. And I have a really good friend and she's also in the mental health space because I'm a licensed social worker, and she also has your same feelings about the word resiliency, Matthew, and she's replaced that with grit. And I've learned to use that, and I just really gravitate towards that because when you hear the word grit, you're like, oh yeah, like that is like I can get on that train, right? It just sounds better, and like what you're describing is what it should be. We overcome, we know how to navigate and pull out those resources or tools like Bloom to be able to make it through the other side. And I don't know who said this quote, but I love it and I use it a lot now. Eventually, the things that are holding us down are going to be the things that will lift us up, right? And then we're able to utilize that and give it to other people to lift them up. And I think that you guys have a very unique opportunity, especially with the retired military brats and touching on a population that is very much forgotten, because we know that when a service member leaves the service, the impact is pretty great. And sometimes it's years of like navigating because it's such a loss of identity. But where is the research and the support for the family once that happens? Like basically they retire and TRICARE is like, well, you get half of your benefits and you get this and thank you and carry on. So the fact that your space is so open to those kids too, I think that's phenomenal because they're definitely like off in the back burner, not thought of.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, we try to include everyone that we can that falls under military connected kids and teens. Like when we fielded the military teen experience report survey with the National Military Family Association last year, almost a year ago, which is crazy to think about. But one of the things that really struck us was like we had so many reserves kids answer, we had so many guard kids, we had so many retired kids, kids that don't necessarily come to mind when we think of military kid, but are equally so military kids. That's something that's really important to me, is like when we think of I as an active duty brat, I feel like I can say this, like active duty brats can be very like gatekeepy when it comes to who is a military kid and who isn't. They're like, oh, you're retired. Okay, you're not a military kid. Oh, you're reserves. You're not a military kid. But that's not true. We're all military kids, and we should be like accepting everyone into our wonderful community because we go through very similar struggles. And like you mentioned before, what Bloom really tries to do is just make sure everyone knows that they're not alone in their struggles. It can be a really isolating lifestyle to live, especially since you often have to change friend groups and peer groups, and you're often put in the position where you are the new person that doesn't know anyone. Um, and we're just trying to be a kind reminder that, you're not alone. There's so many other people going through this too, and not just active duty. So yeah, that's something that's really important to me, is just remembering like include all of these kids when we're talking about military kids, not just active duty, because that's such a small portion of the community.
Yeah, no, excellent point. And I think that a great way to kind of round this discussion off is um, what advice you would give, if you were sitting in front of a military, teen, kid, retiree that is struggling, no matter what they're struggling through. Like, what would you say, to that person? We can kind of start with Matthew and then go over to Elena.
Um, I think the biggest thing for me is learning how to stick up for yourself in this lifestyle. Um, a part of my struggle when I moved to Korea was I felt like no one was here to support me. And I had, for instance, I walked into school on my first day at a DoD school, which I feel like DoD schools are often left out of conversations regarding how to serve military kids because it's assumed that because it's a DoD school, they know. But I found that that's really not the case, and that yeah, that's a whole nother conversation though. But so I walked into school on my first day, and I had one teacher out of 7 who asked me what my name was, and that was an incredibly isolating experience for me. Um, and it kind of set the tone for that whole year, which was definitely one of my worst academic years. But I think that in this space, you have to, one, know how to stick up for yourself, and two, know how to stick up for others who can't speak up for themselves. Because it's one thing for me to say, stick up for yourself, who's very, I think, I wouldn't say I'm the most articulate, but I'm not afraid to come up and tell you what is wrong. um, so yeah, definitely knowing knowing that in the military and in military communities, you can't always assume that someone is going to be like looking out for you, as an individual, as a student, as a community member. Um, you have to find the ways to advocate for yourself, find people to advocate for you, and then turn that around and advocate for other people as well. It's about supporting each other, but also making sure everyone has a voice, in your community. And once you find your voice, it's a lot easier to fix your transcript issues, to find a new set of friends. Um, so yeah, I'd say sticking up for yourself and sticking up for others is something that every military teen should learn to do. Um, and it's a good life skill as well. So
Yeah, that advice like resonates across the board in my opinion, and I think you guys can definitely relate to what I'm saying when I say that as a society it almost feels like we've become more observers than anything. Something's going wrong, everyone's quick to pull out their phone, right? Rather than go, I'm going to speak up for that person. This isn't right. And so I think that's perfect advice, no matter who's reading this, is to, use your voice for yourself, because no one can help you if you can't help yourself first, right? And then being that voice for someone else who maybe hasn't found their own yet. Like, that's phenomenal advice. Very wise you are. Sounded like a young Yoda,
thank
but
you.
He's the wise one of the two. I might be the happy one, but he's the wise one. um,
We
I
complement
I
each
would
other
say
very well.
yeah, we do. I always say that if there was like a soulmate work partner and friend, it would be Matthew. Like he's like the missing puzzle piece. Um, but I would say that if I could give advice to other military kids that are struggling, I feel like this is such like run of the mill advice, but it's run of the mill because it's true. It's that you aren't alone and that people love you and want to help you. That's something I wish like my sophomore year me who had like just moved to Florida and was really, really struggling with her mental health. I wish that's something that she knew because I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. I felt like I was really, really alone and struggling and I didn't know what to do. Um, but I eventually, had the realization that if I didn't do something about it, that it could end very badly. And it was a very dangerous path that I was headed down. And I decided to tell my parents, which was hard. Like, there's a whole stigma when it comes to mental health in the military community, like I sort of mentioned earlier. But I'm very glad I did. I was able to seek professional help. I was able to have a better support system within my family because they were now made aware that I was struggling. Um, there's absolutely no shame or problem with admitting that you need help because we would far rather have you admit that you need help than for you to struggle and suffer in silence. Um, So that's, I gotta say, one of my biggest pieces of advice is that there's always going to be someone that loves you and wants to help you. So reach out if you need it. Um, it's an isolating lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that you have to be alone.
And where do you both see Bloom in 10 years, right? Because I don't see it going anywhere. But when you think about the future, what do you think of?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't know how much we can legally say. Um, but it's
Big
definitely here to
things.
stay.
Yeah,
We have
we have
things,
big
they're
things
coming,
planned.
big things, they're coming. It's definitely here to stay for a while. Um, and we're really, really excited. We're excited to help the next generation of military teens as Matthew and I are sort of getting on that older spectrum of teenager. We really only have like a good year and a half left, at least for me, of like actual teenagehood. Um, so I'm really excited to help usher in, the next generation of teenagers into supporting their community and to uplifting, the voices of other kids in the military space. Um, but I hope that Bloom continues to be run by military teens and for military teens. That was our founding principle. That was one thing that Matthew and I have been adamant on since day one, is that there are so many organizations and uh, coalitions in this space that support military teens and kids, and but they often speak for them and they often make decisions for them without including them in the conversation. Um, and that's something that we think makes Bloom unique and that will, make it stay for a while, is that it's an outlet for the kids to say what they want to say and to have their voices heard for the first time ever. So yeah.
Yeah, I think if so, I guess I can kind of tease a little. I think in the future, you will see a lot of collaboration from Bloom, because like Elena mentioned, there's a lot of great organizations doing advocacy for spouses and for teens, but that don't necessarily talk to teens. But we have had a lot of organizations that want to include us in the conversation, and that we have accepted their offers. And so I think, in the future you'll see a lot of Bloom and other organizations and working together to advocate. Um, you'll see some more research. We did our military teen survey last year. Definitely see some follow-ons to that. Um, and I think the content is going to get a lot more interesting as well, as our original group of writers are entering adulthood and going to college and stuff. I think you'll definitely see a lot different topics being discussed too, because now we'll all have the college experience. We'll all have experiences leaving military life, as well as we'll definitely be working to mentor the next generation of military teens to keep advocating for their community and fighting for all military families.
I love that. And I'm going to finish with a rapid fire. I'm going to have you each, like without even like really getting deep into it. We'll start with you, Elena. Top 5 things about being a military kid. Go.
Oh, getting to travel to so many amazing places. Um, the community of people that I get to meet that are connected to the military, like all of my best friends are military kids. And I love them so much, and they're the best people that I've ever met in my life. Uh, I'd say I miss, I don't live on a base now, which is funny that it's in my top 5, but I miss the PX, man. I like to be able to walk to the PX and go and get my little gummy bears and my little like Subway sandwich. Um, I also, I really love how, um, this is number 4. I really love how supportive the community is. It's really no soldier left behind and no family left behind. Everyone is always so, so, so supportive, no matter what the circumstances. And I really, really, really love that. Um, and number 5, I don't know if I should do a funny one or a nice one,
You
but
can do whatever you want.
ugh, I'm gonna say I really like the perspective it's given me, and like the experiences that I've gotten to have through it. It's shaped my worldview, and it's such a unique community to be a part of. And it's yeah, I love it. I would never, like I said earlier, I would never change my experience for the world. I love it so much.
Good and bad. I love that. What about you, Matthew?
Okay. Discounts.
Good answer. I'm so mad I
Diversity.
didn't think of that.
I really love the diversity in the military community. Travel. Friends in all sorts of places around the world. If you need a thought from a kid in Kansas, you just send a text. And mentors. I think I've had a lot of great mentors just moving around, getting different opinions everywhere. So
I love that. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And I think it's going to give our readers and viewers such a great view of it all, right? Because it's not all shiny and rosy. And I think that's the other thing that you guys really hit on is that's okay. Like, maybe Instagram has given us this perception of like filters and sparkles. And, unfortunately, sometimes we look like trolls under a bridge, and that's okay. And like, we all go through ups and downs, and I love that you guys are so open and willing to share those experiences, and we still ended on such a high note. I think finally, I know you guys are working on like photo shoots and stuff, but any pictures you can send me, I think it'll be great too of like you guys growing up in this life that we can include in the magazine. Like how fun would that be? Especially when you guys were together, in Pennsylvania.
We have one singular picture of us together. We joked. I sent him a meme the other day that literally said true best friends have 0 pictures of each other, and he's like, yeah, that's us.
We have all of our pictures are goofy and like
not stuff
we're gonna
nice
share.
One.
We have
one nice one, but I have a black eye in it, but it's covered by sunglasses. It's a long story. The ending of our freshman year was quite chaotic. But yeah, I feel
we'll definitely send you some.
I feel so bad. We always were, Matthew's supposed to come back this year. And I'm like, Matthew, we need to like hire a photographer. We need to take some freaking pictures together because we have 0.
I wonder, do you think your cover people, because I think we're supposed to meet with them like separately, but do you think they would be able to like Photoshop us together?
Oh my God. Wait, that would actually like be a dream.
I totally think that they have that capability because I can just say that like I can do that on Canva. So I'm really hoping that they have the capability.
Well, we'll take a picture of each other like arm up like this.
Yeah.
And then they'll look like we're hugging each other, but really we haven't seen each other in person in like 3 years.
I want a back-to-back photo. I think that.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
That's a very good idea. Okay. Well,
that's another good thing about the military community. We're so good at keeping in touch.
Absolutely. I think you guys were ready for COVID, right? I joke, but like, we PCS'd here, and then COVID happened like maybe 7 months later. But like my closest friends were already not here, and so it was just a continuation, of FaceTime and all the other ways that you stay connected. And then when you are in person, it's just so special, like when you guys reunite. Like I would love to be a fly on the wall, like all the shenanigans,
Oh my God, no, we've already talked about it, and I was like, I'm gonna start crying immediately, and he's like, me too. It's funny that like some of the most meaningful moments of our friendship have happened entirely over like Zoom, and like the past like 3 years of us not being able to see each other in person. COVID in Korea, obviously, he's the other side of the world, but we're still, he's still one of my most important people in my life, and I love him so much, and he knows that, and I don't have to say that because he knows that, but I like to say it when I can.
I'm appreciating it. My goodness. Okay, well, that is great. You guys have my email. If something comes up and you're like, man, I wish I would have said this, or anything at all, like please feel free. We've got some time. I'll probably submit this tomorrow, but we can probably edit it through next week, most likely. So like, don't be afraid if anything comes up. But I think this is gonna be great. I'm excited to see you guys on the cover.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been a pleasure.
We haven't done an interview in a hot minute, so sorry that we were a bit rusty.
No, you guys were great. And I mean, I always joke like I'm like a fake journalist because like I really am a licensed social worker. I just happen to love people and love writing, and just kind of fell into this. So I don't have the typical questions and things. I love conversations like this. You guys were wonderful.
I'm also a journalist fan, but don't want to be a journalist. Like
you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah. Just like, I don't know. I also love talking to people and writing about people. And It's
We like
funny. It's just
talking
like very similar to my
fraternity talks.
story.
There you go. You just go get yourself a master's in social work and then don't do that. Just kidding. I do that, but it's like in a different way, and that's the beauty of it. But oh my goodness. Well, I will let you guys go. Follow up if you have any questions. If I have any, I'll shoot you guys an email. But thank you for taking your time and
Thank you so
spending
much.
time with me. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.